The team.
Hi there. How are you?
Good.
Ready?
Nope, give me 2 seconds. We're going to hear an echo for a second.
The team.
Hey, Penny, while we're getting to go, could I make a suggestion? I just heard that's going to be moved up on the agenda. Typically, we do as part of our organizational meeting in January, we establish the new officers for the committee or for the partnership. And if I may make a suggestion, I think we should do that right out of the gate.
Prior to any of the agenda items?
Well,
Before-
we've done that in the past in January, usually with our first meeting.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Shelby. I was just going to say, this is where we're going to have an organizational meeting, I thought, in March because of all the new appointees. So, as
a board member, I think we should have it finalized certainly by now. So by the end of this meeting.
okay. Should we have discussion about that then? I mean, I want to call this to order and.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. 4:02 and it's now called to order Saratoga County Prosperity Partnership meeting of the Board of Directors on Penny Hill. And I have a quorum, it looks like, and welcome to all the new members and thanks everybody for coming back. And I was going to follow the agenda and adopt the minutes if we have a motion. Is there somebody? There's 2 sets of minutes. There's the board meeting where we had the full board on December 21st. And if you have your board packet, you can review the minutes. If I hear a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Okay, Benny. Second.
I'd second.
And then we had a special board meeting to pass a resolution on the 29th of January that we called, and we had a quorum for that. Those minutes are also in the board packet. Is that?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from
Rocky.
January 29th.
I'll second.
Maria?
So at that point, I was going to slot Matt in to do the presentation. If we can entertain that now and continue with our discussions about appointments. Is that acceptable for everybody?
Works for me.
Okay. So Matt Grattan is with SUNY Albany. He's the coordinator. He's lots of things. Most of us know Matt, but he's got the responsibilities for Startup New York at SUNY Albany. And he has a company that's interested in locating up in this area, and he is going to talk a little bit about that. If you want to go on your board packet, it's on page 25, and you can scroll down and follow along with that if you would. And and he can give you a little background if some of you aren't familiar with Startup New York. I have the responsibility at Hudson Valley Community College, so I already know a little bit about that process. And Matt, hearing no objections, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about the company that you're going to present.
Great. Thank you so much, Penny. And thank you to the board. I do appreciate this is the second company that we've actually brought forth in partnership with the University at Albany that has located, matter of fact, first company in this particular project are smack dab right next to each other at 10 Corporate Drive in Half Moon and or Clifton Park in the town of Half Moon and this project at 6 Corporate Drive. again, as Penny mentioned, my name is Matt Grattan. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development at UAlbany. So very quickly, this particular project is a company that we've had approved with us in the Startup New York program at the University of Albany for almost 5 years now. They're just shy of their 5-year anniversary. It's a company called Spark Shop. Very dynamic digital marketing firm. They actually spun out. It was 4 females that used to run all of the digital marketing for Price Chopper and Golub Corporation. And they spun out and formed Spark Shop, and then retained Golub as their first client. And then began to pursue other grocery market chains throughout the country, and also looking at and has done some digital marketing components in other industry sectors. If any of you know the aspects of digital marketing and how you market on various social media platforms, normally you might know, if you're somewhat familiar with the Startup New York program, that marketing firms normally would not be eligible for the Startup New York program. But when you get into the components of digital marketing, it is very heavily based in data analytics. This company really dives deep into all the various platforms in social media and the major data providers and suppliers like Google, Amazon Web Services, and and they do a lot of data analytics to look at their strategy of shopper marketing, which is really creating marketing strategies for the actual shopper, not necessarily the consumer of the product. Great firm. They have grown in the 5 years with us to now, when they started with 4 employees, they're now at about a dozen employees. And we just submitted their projections for their next 5 years, and their projections out into year 10 will have them on a track to have 20 employees. They are presently located in the PVA building, Precision Valve and Automation, Tony Hines' company that is, many of you know, is in Cohoes, and will be locating in Clifton Park at the old Half Moon Sportsplex facility. And as they move, Spark Shop is actually going to be moving with them and taking the mezzanine space in the Half Moon Sportsplex. I know Shelby is very familiar with the complex as her kids play soccer there, but there is a kind of an upstairs mezzanine area that PVA was not initially planning to use for their production capacity. So again, as I mentioned, they're a great company. Heidi Real is their CEO. She's also an adjunct faculty member at the University of Albany. She hires a lot of our students as interns and has converted, I think, 4 of them to full-time employees. So they're really a model type of company. And I think they're going to be a great addition to Saratoga County. I'm a Saratoga County resident myself, living in the town of Clifton Park, as Supervisor Barrett knows. And I think they will be a great addition to the county in terms of what they'll bring in reference to jobs and investment.
So that was a good presentation, Matt. Thank you for that. It is interesting to be at Startup New York. A lot of people forgot about it, or it hasn't been talked about in the news very much. Our college has good affiliations with companies that we've started up, and I think we're responsible for, not ourselves personally responsible, but the companies that we work with as sponsors are over 100. And probably you're getting close to that, Matt, but it's new jobs, net new jobs in the 5 years. So with that, I need someone to make a motion for authorizing a resolution for the affiliation between this new Startup New York company through the affiliation agreement and Saratoga County Prosperity Partnership. I didn't say Schenectady.
So moved.
So moved. Thank you.
Supervisor Conley.
Anybody else? Okay, Matt.
Do a vote on the motion?
Vote. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hmm.
Hearing none? Passed. And congratulations, Matt, for another company moved up into Saratoga County.
Thank you, Penny. I probably should just a little before, and I'll sign off right when I'm done so you guys can get on with the rest of your business, but I didn't really kind of clarify, and there's some new board members, as to the rationale as to why we need to utilize this process. And just very quickly, because obviously we're a college that's located in Albany County, anytime we're looking to create tax-free area space under this program in a county that's outside of our where we're centrally located, the regulations of the Startup New York program indicate that you must then work with a nonprofit organization to create this type of affiliation arrangement. So again, what this really will do is affiliate the space to the University of Albany through the collaboration with the Prosperity Partnership. And as you know, you guys will be kind of leasing the space from Tony as the owner of the building, and then subleasing it to Spark Shop associated with that. So I just want to appreciate, this is the second opportunity for us to do this. You guys have been great partners. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
And just for everyone's awareness, last year we did pass a policy, the organization, the board did, and how we handle Startup New York affiliation agreements. And that is in your board packet. And if any existing board members do not have that policy at their fingertips, I will send that over to you. But I believe it is in section 3 with just behind the articles of incorporation. Okay.
Right.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Matt. Check back in. So where shall we pick up? I think we should go right ahead with the treasurer's report. Rocky, you ready for that?
Yes, as soon as I unmute myself, I'm ready for that.
It's on page 7 of the agenda, the board packet that was passed out.
So in any case, it's just the start of the fiscal year, the calendar year as well. We follow the calendar year, so we're a little over a month into the fiscal year for the organization. A couple things to point out on the revenue side, that number one, we're on the final stages of receiving the first quarterly payment of $112,500 from Saratoga County. I think Shelby will bring that up in a few minutes, I guess, in terms of providing the board an update in terms of our contract with the county. But based on the activities that have taken place to date, the discussion have taken place amongst the committee members, the paperwork that had to be provided and submitted, we're on the final stages of receiving that first quarterly payment of $112,500. Added to that, not so much on the revenue side, I guess, is the fact that we did receive, fortunately, approval for the SBA PPP loan of $55,500. And that was, the closing was held on January 29th. So that money has been provided into our checking account. And that was extremely important from a cash flow perspective, because we're able to draw down from that money to pay our bills, including our salaries, et cetera. We still would have had just about enough, because as we talked about the last board meeting, our cash flow situation was very tentative because we had not received the first payment from the county yet. And as such, we didn't have a lot of money in the bank, but fortunately we got this infusion of PPP money, the loan, and so we were able to pay our bills with no problem. And we do have a fund balance, a balance in our checking account to carry us through until we receive the first check from the county. It's important to also know that this is in the form of a loan. So it's also a liability to the organization. It's not a grant, it's a loan. So if the asset is the loan amount, it's offset by the by the debit, if you by the liability, because if we have to pay that back. Now, hopefully that's a very small if, that it will be forgiven, and as such, it will be converted into a grant. But as we speak right now, for the purposes of the financial statements, it is shown also as an asset and a offset by the liability. Okay, until that loan, if and when it is forgiven. So we're in good shape from a cash flow perspective on that. In terms of the expenses, they, as everyone's aware, they have been reduced significantly because of the number one, staff reductions that took place, and also the relocation of our offices, which has resulted in substantial cost savings relative to rent and other associated costs that were incurred during the month of January. So all these contributed to maintain our financial footing relatively solidly at this particular time. And then the audit is underway. The 2020 audit is underway, and I'm not sure exactly what when it will be completed for presentation to the board. I imagine Shelby will fill us in on that as well as part of her report also. So that's all I have to say at this time. Because everything is in order in terms of the books. Michelle is maintaining the book at this time, even though she left us as a full-time staff person. If you recall, we retained her for 10 hours per month to maintain the books during this, in particular during this transition period. And I have to say, she spent a lot more time than 10 hours during this particular time under that contract. So I do appreciate the work that she done on behalf of the board during this transition period of time as well that we're all experiencing moving forward. So that's all I have to say, Penny, regarding the financial report.
Rocky, is there any questions, discussions before we make a motion? Everybody on mute? No? Then do I hear a motion to accept the financial report?
I'll make the motion to accept it, I guess.
Second?
I'll second.
So it's Rocky and Tim. Okay, thank you.
Any, anybody who approves, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Rocky made a motion, or Rocky didn't make a motion. He talked about the audit that's going to be done by West and Company. That's on the agenda. There's the March 31st deadline to have the audit completed as part of our responsibility. So we are, as Rocky mentioned, going to be starting that. I don't know, Shelby, did you want to address that? I think we need a resolution to actually do the audit.
Well, so we started the process. The Weston Company has been doing our audit for the past 2 years, so they're familiar with the organization. And they reached out to us back in December and started the process. Rocky signed over on the paperwork, but wanted everyone to be aware of this, since the audit, our audited financial statements are due to the authority's budget office on March 31st. So given the fact that we had new board members, some reorganization at the county, and we had some time before the first County Economic Development Committee met, we needed to get moving on this so that we could be ready for the time frame. Amy Pedrick from Weston Company plans on attending the next board meeting on March 15th to do a full presentation. So that's basically what I have to report. But, as Rocky had mentioned, Michelle Battle, who did our books last year as our office manager and bookkeeper, she agreed to stay on as a contractor until Amy Johnson was able to come on board. Amy started on February 3rd. Amy is very familiar with bookkeeping and QuickBooks. And so we've been moving through that transition process, and both Amy and Michelle are assisting with the process of answering questions for the audit, as well as doing our journal entries and making our entries for QuickBooks. So that's
Okay, so I guess we need to approve of the, we need a resolution. Does anybody move to to accept the ability to do the audit? I guess that's how you would word it.
I would so move.
So moved.
Second.
Uh, All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we gotta do that. Thank you. So our next item on agenda is the status of the contract, the 2021 Saratoga County contract. And Shelby, is that, you ready to do that?
Yeah, everyone has a draft copy of the contract. Sorry about how long this board packet is. I apologize, but want to make sure that you have everything. On Friday, we received the 6th amendment, which is basically the 6th time we've contracted with Saratoga County to deliver economic development services. So last December, the County Board of Supervisors passed a resolution stating that in order to contract with the county, they wanted us to go to the Economic Development Committee with our previous year's accomplishments, as well as ahead at the year what our goals and objectives were going to be. They also wanted a copy of our budget, our financial statements, as well as our compensation schedule. So I attended the County Economic Development Committee on February 3rd, and that is chaired by Phil Barrett, who is here, and gave an overview, submitted our annual report, gave an overview of our goals and objectives for 2021, which, you know, for all intent and purpose, match what our goals and objectives were for 2020. And that is laid out not only in the 2020 annual report in the very back, but you will see some of these laid out in the contract. And essentially, hold on one second. Let me pull up the page and I'd be happy to put it up on your screen. But the scope of services essentially are to create a strategic plan in partnership with SEDC to promote business assets and attract economic development opportunities to Saratoga County. It also includes our Next Wave in Communities initiative, which is a community economic development planning initiative that we do with individual towns, cities, and villages throughout Saratoga County. It also talks about assisting communities with identifying opportunities for investment, identifying grant opportunities from federal, state, and other sources. It also talks about doing municipal marketing, especially at the town, city, and village level. Create an ombudsmanship program between businesses as well as municipal leaders. Look at international trade opportunities. We also do business retention and expansion, and data information clearinghouse. We actually subscribe to services, one that's called Site to Do Business and another one that is called Live Stories. But and we also do regular surveys of businesses in the community, residents, community leaders, et cetera. So we help businesses make data-driven decisions in our world. And so the more data that we have, the more we are able to inform our communities as well as the businesses who are investing here. Workforce development is another key initiative. Let's see, we also will maintain our position on the Warren, Washington, and Saratoga County Workforce Development Board, and marketing of Saratoga County for the semiconductor industry. And I think Tim, being in the town of Malta and as a economic development colleague. I know this is something that he knows a lot about, as far as the opportunities that are available related to the microelectronics sector and the supply chain. So that essentially is what our contract is. Saratoga County, like I said, passed a resolution so that we will only be receiving half of the bed tax. So in this past year, 2020, the economic impacts of COVID have been pretty significant on the hospitality and tourism sector. And in 2019, we received a little over $1.1 million as a county in bed tax, which we were entitled to half of. This year, it was significantly less. And the county actually gave us 3/4 of our payments of $125,000, and we were overpaid. So in an effort to not have that happen again, we're going to go to the Economic Development Committee every quarter and talk about what's going on, what we are doing, and then make draws or submit vouchers based on actually what the county has collected at that time. So we are fully prepared to do that. And the contract actually lays out the schedule of 112.5 per quarter, but that doesn't mean we're guaranteed 112.5. It just means that this is how the quarterly payments are going to be broken down. But as an organization, as long as I'm here, I am going to, every dollar that we get from Saratoga County, we want to try to leverage with outside dollars as much as possible. And also, it is critical, like we have done everything possible to mitigate our expenses, to make sure that, whatever we have, we can live with and we can work with. But we want to make sure that we can still fulfill our mission. So that's basically where we are. The contract was approved by the Economic Development Committee. I went to the Law and Finance Committee last week and it was approved. So now we just have to wait until the full Board of Supervisors on February 23rd before we can submit that voucher for 112.5. I know we have, a supervisor as well as Steve Bulger is now our county administrator. And if either one of them had anything to say about the process, or Phil Barrett, anyone is welcome, but it's been going well so far.
Shelby, I had a couple comments / questions on that and just wanted to share. First of all, I think this new process of meeting on a more regular basis with the County Economic Development Committee, I think is a very, very good thing for really both parties, both for the county and for SCPP, because that communication is absolutely key to success. And I'll absolutely, agree with what you said about the opportunities within the semiconductor industry and where we can leverage some work there. One thing that I was just wondering, with the data services that we're subscribed to, how granular of a level can we get? Can we do sort of datas at the town or village or city level, or is that just at the county level?
No, you can do right down to the town level. So Tim, like, for example, the list of businesses that I provided to you for the MaltaWorks survey. So this is used primarily by corporate real estate folks. The company is based out of Chicago, but it's all GIS based. So you can actually go to the map and you can drill down to the town level to identify businesses, demographics. I'd be happy to give you a test drive of the software because it's great. And then it's GIS based, so you can actually layer data upon data.
It sounds really, really valuable for the towns. And I think for the supervisors that are here on the line, we're trying to do a little bit more in Malta with gathering the right information and getting it out there for the site selection community. And maybe we can identify a half dozen data points or so for all the various towns and municipalities. That's like, even just simple things like population, median income, and those sort of just data points that site selectors would be looking for, that we might be able to, in Malta, we have a MaltaWorks website where we can post those things, but they could even live on your individual town websites, so that as businesses are thinking about whether they wanted to locate in your community, that would be a really useful tool. So I think that's something that would be really cool to be able to do with that level of sort.
And Tim, it also gets granular enough that it gets down to the level of consumer spending
Oh, that's great.
within communities. So a lot of this data, if you look at the Ballston Spa Economic Development Plan, we did add a lot of this data onto this because, you know, businesses make data-driven decisions, especially on the retail and commercial side, because you're going to go where you know the market is. But sometimes, you know, you're limited to data and information based on, you know, the most recent census. So we have to obviously take a good look. You know, the census data for 2020 is not going to be out for another month or two. So we're still relying on 2010 census or community survey information. But, you know, we have enough sources and partners out there that if we need additional information, we know where to draw it from.
That'd be great. Well, let me just offer this. I'll volunteer some time if you want to between this meeting and next for you and I to maybe put our heads together on a handful of data points that might be useful for the towns and see what we can come up with, because that might be a really easy way to provide some great value to the towns and villages right away and get that stuff out on their websites.
So anyway,
Any questions? Anybody else have thoughts? I have one question quick, where it's marked with a watermark draft. Is that going to go away when it's signed? Is that then it's final up until that point?
yes.
Okay. Anybody else? It's good. It's good. All good. Okay. I think that concludes that section of the report. We're on to new business. Now, is this, do we want to go right into your annual report, or is this where we want to have a discussion or go into the ABO compliance? I'm open here.
We have committee assignments in there, but it's your meeting.
Well, I didn't see the an agenda item for leadership, so that's why I brought it up in the beginning. So I'm fine if you all had planned to do it as part of your March meeting. And I don't know, do the committee assignments come in under that as well?
Yes.
I think they usually are, right?
Yeah, and Todd, since the board, this is really, I mean, I know we had the first meeting, you know, unfortunately,
Yeah.
I weren't able to attend, but instead of just assigning everyone to committees, we wanted, there's something in everyone's packet. It's right towards the end before the president's report. And
Okay.
and it basically asks for your committee preferences, and it does give a complete outline of the three committees that are available. So the Audit and Finance Committee, the Governance Committee, and the Personnel Committee. And if you could just rank those by, you know, 1, 2, 3, and then we'll try to, you know, assign based on your preferences as opposed to just shoehorning someone into a committee assignment.
I think that's page 46 for all of you looking for it. But yeah, it would be nice if you could fill out what your interests are, as Shelby said. And then you can be doing work that you like on the side, do your normal job. And so I think that, and there's also in the bylaws, isn't there in the bylaws, Shelby, not about the committees, but about the process of who stays and who, like the secretary is not appointed every year. The secretary stays as part of one of the supervisors. Is that all in the bylaws?
Yeah, so last year, the Governance Committee met early on, and our chairman at the time, as well as the Governance Committee, wanted to develop a process for officers of the board. And essentially, like a lot of not-for-profits, they wanted to rotate the positions of the officers so that someone an officer had the chance to, you start off as the treasurer, you get to know the books, and then you move into the next year, the vice chair position, which is more of a leadership role. And then you move into the chairperson's position in your third year, and then you rotate back off. However, the board secretary, since we typically have a number of supervisors on the board, we wanted the supervisors to, you know, choose that officer position amongst themselves for the most part. And it's an important position. You're a check signer, you sign off on our minutes and other important resolutions. So, given the fact that the county is the sole member of the corporation, so that's where the governance committee, that's where they were going with this. But they didn't actually change the bylaws, but the governance committee did pass the resolution back then. And that was when Charles Waite from Adirondack Trust was the chair of our governance committee, but he ended up leaving our board back in June of last year. So
That's a little background and explanation. That's helpful. Thank you.
So what's the status now, I guess, Shelby, in terms of procedures? You say the governance committee approved this procedure in terms of the movements associated with the officers on an annual basis, but that was never approved by the full board?
we didn't get so far as to changing the bylaws, and I think Justin could probably explain. It's pretty involved. It's more involved of a process. Justin, care to weigh in?
Yeah, sure. And it just would kind of specifically answer the question that in practice, the board is elected its slate of officers as part of the annual meeting, which for convenience, we've also set committees and adopted policies and accepted the annual audit about the same time in the same meeting and same set of resolutions. So the slate is kind of evolved with that annual meeting. I know there's been discussion over the past couple of years about maintaining kind of an order of chairs, if you will, or a succession of chairs. So leadership positions can be kind of cultivated, if you will, moving through secretary, treasurer, vice chair, chair. The board can, stick with that general format with a succession of chairs, or select a new slate or a new way if it wants to. But again, I think it's best done with a little advance notice and a little advanced discussion. It helps, as Shelby pointed out, select, interest on committee assignments. What are your skill sets? What can you bring to the table? Is it more of audit, finance type stuff, or is it governance type stuff? And it also allows the current leadership, and certainly we have some new folks and new faces from the county, to kind of talk amongst themselves and see what people want to do, what kind of time and investment folks want to put into it. And hopefully the election, if you will, is an easy one to just button up next month.
Procedurally, though, I guess, in terms of next steps, because Shelby, we all received our preference for committee assignments and the like, so we'll send that back to Shelby. Will the governance committee therefore be making a recommendation back to the full board in terms of the appointments of the different committees, as well as the potential officers to serve for the current year we're in now? Or how's that going to be laid out in terms of getting ready for our next meeting, basically, and making those decisions accordingly?
I would defer to Shelby and her preference, but I think the committee interests can be easily solicited and done organically. And if folks want to be on the audit committee and they want to, spend more time than just on the volunteer board member, then that makes sense. Again, internal discussions can be had, or discussions amongst board members on their preferences for leadership as well. So I would go more the organic way. The governance committee doesn't have any influence or can't trump or recommend necessarily, but maybe that'd be a platform or a way to kickstart the discussions if there's a desire for a new slate of officers to take over next month.
And last year the governance committee did not kick off that process. It was done more organically, but we didn't, we did also make sure that we were talking amongst ourselves, and that, if you want to serve as an officer, that you have the time commitment, you're willing to, and are interested. And, if there's a way that we can keep that succession plan going, we want to make sure that, whomever is in a leadership position is intimately involved with, our books and our operating procedures before they move into that succession plan. So it seems to work really well for a lot of not-for-profit organizations. And we also want to make sure that leadership doesn't necessarily, stagnate. I think in the past, we had public sector for a couple of years and then private sector for a few years, and there wasn't really a rhyme or reason for how leadership positions were selected. So it gives some structure.
Any other questions or dialogue? So I guess we had Eric Conley had to bow out. He had a doctor's appointment. So Shelby, how about I save the best for last and you do, let's see, committee assignments we kind of talked about. And we've already talked about, did you want to go into your annual report or save that to right before your president's report and do it all at once?
I can do it all at once. I'd be
All
happy.
right. All right, and then so the only thing other than the annual report that Shelby's put together is the ABO compliance, the authority's budget office, the conflict of did I miss anything?
No, this is really a housekeeping item.
Okay.
I'll send out for everyone. Well, all our new board members, if you haven't taken the authority's budget office training, that is available online. I know that a few of the new board members have taken it, but if you've already served on a public authority, that certification that you've taken it is fine. Just send me your certification and we'll put that on file. Also for new board members and existing board members, we sent out the conflict of interest and board evaluate and the fiduciary responsibility form. So if you can sign off on those and send those back to me, that is very helpful. And then, if you want to just drop it in the mail or scan it or whatever, and then what we do is just put that in the file. What we do need from existing board members is the board evaluation form. And that is also in your packet. But if you need a fresh form, just let me know and send that back. We figured we would try to tackle all of the compliance measures to make sure we have a nice clean bill of health. Right about the same time, you probably have already received your oath of office and your conflict of interest form from Saratoga County. That did not come from me. That comes directly from Saratoga County because you're appointed by Saratoga County, and you just need to get that notarized. So when you have that done, that doesn't come to me. That goes directly to the county attorney's office, I believe, or the county clerk. So that's all I had. And for other ABO compliance, the only thing that I wanted everyone to be aware of was the fact that our auditor will be coming in on March 15th to give a report and sign off on our audit so that we can be in compliance with our annual report, which will go to them, which includes audited financial statements by March 31st. So that's it.
Exciting.
Shelby, can those be filled out and scanned and sent? Or is it have to go through the mail, original copy? What's the best way to get them to you?
Scan them, send them to me.
Okay.
That's fine. Especially right now.
Shelby, I have one quick question in terms of the code of ethics review that we have to send to the directly to the county attorney's office. And I guess the date by February 26th. For those who are not sure, the date is on their list says must be returned by February 26, 2021. But the question I have in there is there's one question: date of most recent appointment. What date do we put on there?
Last year, I think the entire slate of board members were appointed. So I can get that too. I'm pretty sure it was like January 4th, 2020, but I'll confirm that.
Okay, that was, so those of us who, I guess, who were on last year in 2020, we have to fill out that, like you stated, we have to fill out that code of ethics form for this year as well. So were we reappointed for 2021, or was our appointment from the previous year?
I think your appointment was from the previous year. Like I have the county resolution for when you were appointed. So that's what you can fill in. I think what the county did, I'm appointed to a different board. They send them out to every appointment. So they want you to fill those out every single year, I believe.
Even though we weren't technically reappointed, and those of us who were already on the board, we were not reappointed. Is that correct?
I think your appointment is just carrying on. There's an end date for your appointment, which I believe is the end of 2021.
Okay, so 2-year appointment?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'll have to.
All right, okay, it's not important. It's just the most recent date, when the appointment did take place.
I can send those out to everyone.
Right.
I think we had 4 members that were appointed until 2022, and then the rest cycle off on 2021.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. But again, yeah, that goes directly to the county.
Right.
So I'm going to cruise right into the president's report, Penny.
Yep, I'm done with what I need to do. I think we've got the ABO stuff out of the way and all the technical stuff. Go right into your annual report and your own report. And if you want to put it up there, go away. That's great.
I'm going to do this really quickly, and I'm going to try not to keep you here all night. So thank you very much for your patience. And it doesn't look like it is giving me the screen for that. So you all should have the annual report in front of you. I put this together on not necessarily short notice, but I put this together quickly for the Saratoga County Board of Supervisors and the Economic Development Committee, just outlining our accomplishments for 2020. And as I had mentioned, our contract with the Saratoga County is on the second to last page of, how the services that we were providing. 2020 business retention and expansion was everything. I took over in January. We were recasting our budget. We were contracting with the county again, following through with objectives from the previous year, which included economic development planning. And then COVID hit. And it really changed the landscape for everyone. And business retention and expansion was our top priority. Not only did small businesses have, they were closed by no fault of their own. They really had no concept or idea of how they were going to pay their bills, when they were going to be able to reopen, and how they were going to get through the economic impacts of COVID, which hit roughly March 16th of last year. So, like I said, some of the basic things we did was, probably the first week of shutdown, we started reaching out to our business community and surveyed our small businesses to identify how they were doing, if they were at risk of closing. And, at that point, 59% of the folks that we surveyed, they said that their revenue was lower than the year before, and that they were at risk of closing. So things were rough, but we partnered with our chambers of commerce, our downtown business associations, our Convention and Visitors Bureau, to do strategic and systematic outreach to identify sources of funding, including, we set up a webinar with Congresswoman Stefanik, as well as our state elected representatives, to understand what the federal stimulus package was going to look like. And thank you so much, Steve Bulger, when he was the regional director for the SBA, was very, very important and instrumental in helping us understand what we needed, or what businesses we're going to be seeing moving forward. We provided technical assistance to businesses that were trying to understand whether or not they were an essential business. We had manufacturers that were being, potentially closed down that were not deemed essential businesses. So helping small businesses, or anything under 500 employees as a small business, help navigate these processes. We sent out weekly emails about COVID resources that were available at the federal, state, and local level. So And just, our email impact, we know that over 63,000 emails were open related to our COVID outreach. So our goal was to get information out on the street, help handhold businesses, help them navigate the process of getting PPP loans or EIDL loans or state funding, or help them troubleshoot, get business planning, et cetera. So some of that data is in there. I don't want to go into exhaustive detail. Business retention and expansion, just a few examples of businesses that we worked with. We had G&G Lighting, expansion in Half Moon. It's funny, Death Wish Coffee. I helped them identify a new corporate headquarters. And why is this important? They didn't necessarily get an incentive, but they manufacture here in Half Moon. However, they're really turning into a robust marketing and sales company, and they can do business without anywhere. So making sure that they have a home in Saratoga County is really important to us. I also helped a little company, Artisanal Brew Works. What was special about this is that during COVID, this small company was able to expand into a national distribution channels. They came out with a special product and they went straight from, most of their sales were in their tasting room local, which they did not have an opportunity to have their tasting room open during COVID, and went into national distribution channels, primarily California, Florida, with a specialty product, and really grew overnight. And why we were excited about this is that the town of Wilton specifically was looking for more of like a brew pub operation along Route 9 in that corridor. So, it was a nice match. Next Wave Communities, we have been working on economic development plans during all of this. Ballston Spa was wrapped up back in October, and it's been going really, really well. Progress to date, they have begun the process of updating their comprehensive plan, which hasn't been updated since 1994. And this also includes their zoning. Businesses need predictability, and if the zoning doesn't match what the community wants, then it's going to create almost like a hostile environment for businesses to invest there. So, we've got a lot of interesting projects coming forward. We're working with the folks that own the 6+ acre Angelica site there. We have a lot of folks within the commercial business district that are very interested in investing there. They have used the data from our economic development plan to receive at least 2 grants so far. One is a complete street study, and another one is a linkage study to link the downtown with the Zim Smith Trail. And why does all this matter? Because a community with a plan has the ability to leverage that to go out and get investment, whether it's for infrastructure, for other grants and resources. And when that plan is packaged with data, it also speaks volumes about whether or not this community is open for business. And in fact, it is. And I think most of ours are as well. It's just, when you articulate that in a plan, it makes it very, very helpful. We have a meeting this Wednesday evening with a majority of the property owners. We are going to be bringing in Department of Housing and Community Control to talk about grant programs that they have for property owners investing in their own property, whether it's mixed use, commercial, residential, et cetera. So, we've seen multiple small businesses open during the pandemic in a retail environment. We also provided some technical guidance when it came to allowing restaurants to spread out and use the streetscapes. And so it's been going well there. We're working on a plan right now in the town of Malta. We've had one going with Galway. But keep in mind, this has been a staff of 3. A lot of changes this year. 2/3 of the year we worked remotely. So we've been trying to do the best we can and move forward with a lot of free resources and free pre-planning without spreading ourselves too thin. And also something that we did go after was a USDA Rural Business Development Grant to help leverage the funds that we are getting from Saratoga County to, put into economic development planning because USDA felt like this was a very important initiative, and we do as well. Something else that we have here is we worked with the towns and cities throughout Saratoga County on helping them identify resources for or projects for their economic development fund. The county set aside $150,000. Each community was given $7,100 of that to find economic development projects. So we've basically provided technical assistance and administration of those funds. One of the outcomes of that was a Northern Town study with Bean Communications. And this, we encourage those communities to pool their resources together and come up with an intermunicipal economic development plan to attract teleworkers, to attract new residents, and to attract people who want to open small businesses. You know, a lot of folks that have moved there came there because they once vacationed in these communities. And, you know, this strategy is not unique to the northern towns of Saratoga. It's actually a lot of communities in upstate New York have been taking advantage of the fact that a lot of folks have out-migrated from cities because of the economic impacts of COVID. So that final plan should be ready for public viewing and the next steps shortly. So I don't want to, we also have the Victory Mills Workforce Housing Project. That is a $68 million project in the Village of Victory. We're working with the developer, Larry Regan from Regan Development, to redevelop this property, which has been put on the National Register of Historic Places back in 2009, into roughly 158 units of workforce housing. So they're going to get tax credits from the historic tax credits, HFA tax credits, Housing Finance Agency of New York. And we also brought them through the Saratoga County IDA. So they're going to get mortgage recording tax. The IDA is going to take possession of the property to offer a payment in lieu of tax agreement, a pilot agreement for them. And they get sales tax exemption on the materials. We went back to the IDA on February 3rd because the project cost had jumped from, you know, roughly 59,000 to 68. So over the course of a year, when they got their initial approvals, those project costs have jumped significantly. Some because of, you know, escalation costs due to COVID, and, you know, try to find a 2x4 these days. It's more expensive than it was a year ago. And also because they have started the brownfield, the property is also a brownfield, so they've already started that process as well. And so they're seeing real costs associated with this project. They expect that they have a public hearing on March 9th with the IDA, and they will be packaging up this project and will be in front of the state for tax credits, the affordable housing tax credits, in June. And they anticipate construction would start right after that, would take a 2-year time frame. And we will see a really cool built project out in the town of the Village of Victory in about 3 years. We also we're working with other folks that are looking at developing workforce housing in Saratoga, one of whom we paired with an organization that will provide childcare. So they had commercial space on the first floor. And why is this important? Because people have kids, and the workforce participation rate has been shrinking due to COVID, because so many people have, you know, had to remote teach their kids. We've had a childcare shortage prior to COVID. So, you know, helping establish more childcare centers is something of a priority for the community, and an initiative that we're taking on with our workforce development partners. And so they just signed an MOU last week with the developer to provide 55 spots of childcare in that building if they receive their tax credits and approvals moving forward. So more details to provide. And again, as I had mentioned, as far as workforce development, we are working with the Bright Side Up. It's formerly Capital Region Child Care Council, the Adirondack Child Care Network, Warren County Career Development Center, as well as the Saratoga County Career Development Center on working together with our Workforce Development Board to, right now we've got a survey out, which we're trying to work with our employers as well as the residents to identify childcare needs, and from there create a childcare program with, or let me back up, use WIOA, federal WIOA funds to help train folks who have an interest in developing their own at-home childcare centers. And why is this important in rural areas or suburban areas? If you don't have large concentrations of folks, it's a lot. We can cover a lot of need if we help people develop their own at-home childcare centers. So more information coming up. We also this year worked with Albany Can Code on establishing at least 3 programs in Saratoga County: digital literacy, Python for data analytics, as well as JavaScript. And we used federal WIOA dollars to help fund some of these programs. In this past year also, to go into building capacity and grant awards, I had talked about the USDA Rural Business Development Grant. In 2020, we also applied for an EPA Brownfield Community-Wide Assessment Grant, and that would bring us $300,000 to identify potential brownfield sites, do phase 1 or phase 2, as well as master plan how to redevelop these sites into functioning properties that add value to the tax base. And another little thing that we did in 2020 is we worked with the Town of Malta Economic Development Committee. Tim Dunn chairs that, and also the County Chamber of Commerce and the committee members, who are fantastic and wonderful volunteers. We applied for a $5,000 grant from the Global Foundries Foundation to help promote retail businesses during the most challenging times of the winter months. So that is going to be launched in March. We had great intentions to launch it in January, but we're pulling together our partners, and there have been some other really cool, I think you saw probably last week, the Split the Bill initiative. So these are becoming popular, but restaurants operating at 25% capacity, once they're gone, it's going to take an awful lot to bring them back. So we are doing everything possible to drive demand, as well as put money in their pocket and raise awareness of these. And we're doing it as a partnership, so it doesn't put too much burden on a small office like ours. As far as regional representation, I was appointed to the Albany Airport Regional Master Planning Committee. And this is important primarily because it's nice to be able to give our business community and our community leaders a voice in how that airport is planning itself in the future. Airports are important economic development tools and drivers, and where your direct routes are is very important to the business community. So I was appointed to that, and Brendan Schutte from Global Foundries was also asked to serve on that. So we just had our kickoff meeting this past week. We are working with the Center for Economic Growth. They are putting together an economic developers roundtable of economic developers throughout the region. And why is this important? Because there are regional initiatives that we can help participate in and add value by, there are things that they can do on a regional level in terms of aggregating demand, so that, we have enough natural gas energy in our regional marketplace, that we have an entity that's marketing our region and our regional assets to the global community, that we have an organization that is also helping lead marketing efforts like New York Loves Nanotech in our region, which focuses on the semiconductor industry. And they also focus on offshore wind and other initiatives. So we just kicked off our first meeting last week. I was also appointed to the Business Development Work Group of our Regional Economic Development Councils, and that's helping to establish priorities for, again, business attraction and business retention, and also business resiliency, because as we've seen through COVID, a lot of our global supply chains, we've seen massive gaps here. And so working with this group, we're identifying regional opportunities, which will hopefully come down to the county level and the town level, and we can help our communities from the ground up understand what the opportunities are and help plan and prepare infrastructure, plan their planning and approval processes so that, you know, we have market drivers meeting, you know, the community needs. And a final, I was also appointed to the Saratoga Hospital Communities of Excellence Advisory Committee, and what they are doing is working with many different types of entities, whether it's the YMCA, County Department of Public Health, and trying to look at some larger issues that impact the health and wellness of a community, you know, whether it's food security, transportation challenges, housing, and, you know, economic development. And having a good job and a good wage is also an important factor in determining a community's health. So that's a 3-year project going forward, and you know, we're actively working with that committee to develop a plan, and also, you know, integrate organizations that rarely, you know, work together and talk. So that's essentially the 2020 annual report. Moving forward, you know, in the president's report, I talked about actually a lot of this. Another thing that has happened is the partnership moved our offices. So in an effort to, you know, be fiscally responsible and downsize, I moved the entire office at the end of December into on January 6th into the Saratoga County Chamber of Commerce office. So I'm over here in Saratoga Springs now, 28 Clinton Street, 2nd floor. We take up 2 offices here. I think when things start to open up, we have use of their conference room, which is bigger than our previous conference room. And our rent went from $3,300 a month down to about $750. So, and a lot of our overhead has gone down with it. So we are lean and mean, and also, you know, we benefit from co-location with other entities that are doing similar things to us. I'd like to welcome Amy Johnson. Amy started last week. She's worked for a not-for-profit similar to ours out in the Finger Lakes prior to this. She actually intentionally wants to work in economic development. So, you know, after losing Jenny and Michelle leaving, Amy is really filling dual roles and has the ability to do both things. So I'm excited about working with Amy moving forward. Thank you. And she's working out great so far. And the PPP just came out for businesses that haven't received it yet, as well as existing businesses, working with a lot of small businesses about that. And also working with businesses. I have a $2 million expansion project here in Saratoga County. I've got an agribusiness expansion project at about $4 million. We're working with National Grid. We believe that they're going to get about $50,000 right off the bat. I also was reached out to about, I'm sure we're hearing a lot of this after Sportsplex closed, but indoor recreation. I mean, you know, I've gotten 3 leads related to that in the past month. So, and we know another one is going to be coming online in Half Moon. But a lot of activity. I think that businesses are pivoting in this environment. And even though, you know, there are a lot of businesses that are suffering, there are a lot of folks that have decided that they're going to take advantage of a new market opportunity. So it has been busy. I talked about our workforce training program and Next Wave Communities Malta. And I don't want to keep you anymore. I think I've covered just about everything.
That's a lot. You did a lot, Shelby, and your team. Good job. Good job. So,
But, like Tim had said, you know, this is your board. This is your organization. Economic development really is, it's about it's a team sport. And, you know, I want to make sure that you feel like the tax dollars that are being devoted to this organization are being spent responsibly. And we need to be adding value to this community and also, you know, growing the pie here. And, you know, we've got a nice board of people from a diverse group of industries, background, experience. And the more that you get engaged in the conversation about, you know, voice your concerns, voice your opinions, and talk about what your priorities in your community are, because, you know, we work for you. So that's all.
Thank you. Shelby, you know, and I'll just throw this out for the board to think about, and forgive me if I'm out of line or if you guys disagree with me. You know, one of the things, and being a total newbie here, as I was looking through the really great packet that you put together, you know, we have committees that focus on governance and on finance and very important areas of our organization. But, you know, one of the big areas that SEPP is focused on, and I think, you know, it can do really good things for the county is around marketing and site selection and attraction. And I'm wondering if there's a value in looking at establishing a committee focused on that. You know, we have a great board member here with some wonderful experience in data and metrics in Rocco. And you know, I have a lot of experience in marketing. So we might have two potential volunteers to get the wheels turning on some of those things. And maybe it's not even a committee, maybe it's just sort of a one-off, so that you guys have some, you know, we board members can participate and help support that effort, because in my mind, that's one of the most important things that we can do. We know how great it is to do business in Saratoga County, but if the rest of the world doesn't know about it, then we're not going to be able to bring them here.
And Tim, I think if anyone knows, there are dollars out there from National Grid and New York State Electric and Gas to support marketing initiatives. So I think I'm not a board member, but I think it's a fantastic idea. And we do have talent on this board that can contribute quite a bit.
And forgive me if other people have talent related to that I missed. I just know, I know Rocco's background, so I wanted to throw him under the bus too.
Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. And thank you for that recognition. That is very much appreciated. And your comments are spot on, not only from the data and the marketing standpoint, that part of it, but also having the community be prepared. And that's what Shelby, has talked about in terms of the tech support that she's providing these communities to understand the importance of the plan and then the implementation strategies that are necessary to promote, in this case, economic development initiatives, to get site ready and be prepared in terms of regulatory requirements that need to be met along the way, and streamline that process as much as possible, and to work with communities to understand and implement measures to achieve that particular objective.
Yeah, and I think especially now that we have a couple of these next wave community programs coming together, and we have some of that under our belt, we can really maybe start beating the drum across the board. I think that what you presented on the Northern Communities front as well is pretty exciting. So we could have a handful of initiatives that we could start, you know, telling a great story on. And it's just a matter of putting the right metrics together and the right plans together with our municipalities.
That's awesome. And by the way, the committee assignments, those are just the committees that are the baseline requirements for the purpose of the authority's budget office. So, you know, we can have as many advisory committees as we need to fulfill our mission and our obligation to the contract and help grow opportunities for Saratoga County.
So this is new business. If anybody has anything they want to add. Thoughts?
If very briefly, Rocco was talking about the PPE loan. If he or Shelby could briefly explain to our new members how that leads into a grant, maybe that'd be helpful.
Yeah. No, that's thank you so much, Benny. So the PPP loan, we received $55,000. 60% of that needs to be used for salaries and benefits, and the remaining 40% can be used for other operational expenses, including our data and internet, our Zoom subscription, our accounting services, things like that. So the way that you have a period of time that you can use that, we can use this for up to 24 weeks. You can go between 8 weeks and 24 weeks. And then at the conclusion of that, we also have a special banking account that we only, rent is also a qualified expense, that we draw directly out of that account. At the end, we fill out our forgiveness application with Adirondack Trust. And if we meet the qualifications, if we've spent 60% on salaries and benefits and 40% in the right place, then that loan turns into a grant and is forgiven. So this is the second go around for us. The last one we were approved in April, and our forgiveness was approved in November. So that was $81,000. So we hope to do the same. And, this gives us a lot of cushion, considering the fact that our budget is based on bed tax, and the hospitality and tourism industry hasn't done so well this year. So we hope to have a comeback, but this has been incredibly helpful. Did I answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? New business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Oh, next meeting, March 15th, be there. The auditor's going to be there to talk about the report, and it'll be our organizational meeting. And so we'll want all your input on that.
Super.
Move to adjourn?
You do? Tim? And a second?
I'll second.
Great. Any opposed?
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Josh.
Josh Spain.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all for your attention, and I guess we're done for the day. Thank you.
Thank you
Shelby.
very much.
Thanks, Shelby.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you, everyone.